My name is Thea Linden. I'm 34. Last Saturday at 7:47 p.m., I was standing in front of 200 wedding guests at Millbrook Country Club while my father publicly displayed a slideshow that called me a high school dropout, divorced, broke, alone, and infertile. And every single word was a lie. The chandeliers above me blurred into white streaks. My hands gripped the edge of table 17 so hard I could feel the linen bunching under my fingernails. The projector screen behind my sister Paige's sweetheart table showed a photo of me at 19, underweight and exhausted, with the caption, "Thea, the family project that failed." My mother Vivian stood near the DJ booth, one hand pressed to her chest, like she was heartbroken by my very existence. My father Harold was at the microphone, his voice smooth and rehearsed. "We tried everything," he said to the crowd. "Therapy, financial support, tough love. But some people just can't be saved." I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip that table. Instead, I pulled my phone from my clutch with shaking hands and typed 2 words to a number I'd been given 3 days ago. "Begin now." The response came in 4 seconds. "Done." Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Let me take you back 16 years to when I was 18 and sitting in my grandmother Ruth's sunroom on a Tuesday afternoon in June. The smell of her jasmine tea mixed with the scent of fresh-cut grass from the lawn outside. She wore her reading glasses on a beaded chain and had her hands folded over a manila envelope on the glass table between us. "Thea," she said quietly, "I need you to listen very carefully." I set down my iced tea. Condensation pooled on the coaster. "Your parents don't see you," she continued. "They see Paige. They've always seen Paige. I've watched them do this to you since you were 6 years old, and I cannot fix it while I'm alive because I don't have the legal standing. But I can prepare for when I'm gone." She slid the envelope toward me. Inside was a deed to a 2-acre parcel of land on the northern edge of town, adjacent to the old Millbrook Heritage District. The land had been in her family for 80 years. "This is yours," she said. "Legally recorded. Your name only. It's worth $240,000 today. In 10 years, when they start developing that area, it'll be worth twice that. Do not tell your parents. Do not tell Paige. Keep this deed somewhere they can't find it." I was 18. I didn't understand why she was being so secretive. "Grandma, they're my parents. They wouldn't—" "Yes, they would." Her voice was firm. "And when they do, I want you to remember this. I see you, little architect. I always have." Little architect. She'd called me that since I was 7 and spent an entire summer building elaborate cardboard cities in her basement. I kept the deed in a locked fireproof box under my bed for 16 years. I never told anyone. But let me go back even further, to when I was 12 years old, sitting at the kitchen table on a Sunday morning while my mother made pancakes for Paige's birthday. My birthday had been 3 weeks earlier. We'd ordered pizza because my mother said she was too tired to cook. I was sketching the Victorian house across the street, trying to capture the way the morning light hit the wraparound porch. My father walked past, glanced at my drawing, and said, "Still wasting time on that?" I looked up. "It's not a waste. I'm practicing." "Practicing for what? You know architects need math skills, right? You got a C- in algebra last semester." My face burned. "I'm working on it. I got a tutor." "With whose money?" He poured himself coffee. "Paige got straight A's. She doesn't need a tutor." Paige was 9. She was sitting at the table in a birthday crown, eating chocolate chip pancakes that our mother had shaped like hearts. She didn't look at me. My mother set down the spatula. "Harold, it's Paige's birthday. Let's not start." "I'm not starting anything," he said. "I'm just saying, if Thea put half as much effort into school as she does into those drawings, maybe she'd actually amount to something." I went to my room. I didn't come out for the rest of the day. Nobody came to check on me. That night, Grandma Ruth called. She always seemed to know when things were bad. "Little architect," she said, "tell me what you're working on." I told her about the Victorian house, the way the turret caught the light, the decorative brackets under the eaves, the original stained glass in the front door. "That's beautiful," she said. "You know what? Next time you're here, I'll show you the old architectural drawings for my house. They're from 1924. Original blueprints. You might like them." I did like them. I spent hours studying those blueprints, learning to read the symbols, understanding how a building was more than just walls and a roof. It was structure. It was intention. It was someone's vision made real. 3 months ago, my father called me at 11:22 p.m. on a Wednesday. I was reviewing blueprints for the Millbrook Heritage Project, a historic courthouse restoration I'd been leading for 8 months. My phone lit up with Dad, and my stomach immediately tightened. "Thea." His voice had that clipped, impatient tone, no greeting. "We need to talk about the Oakdale property." I set down my mechanical pencil. "What Oakdale property?" "The 2 acres Grandma Ruth owned. The family land." My throat went dry. "That land isn't family land. It's my land. Grandma gave it to me when I was 18. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Thea, don't be absurd. That land was always meant for Paige's wedding venue. Your grandmother just put it in your name temporarily for tax purposes. I'm filing the paperwork to transfer it next week." "You can't do that. It's legally mine." "Thea." His voice dropped into that disappointed father register I'd heard my entire life. "Do you really want to fight your own family over a piece of dirt? Paige and Garrett have their hearts set on building their dream home there. You don't even need it. You live in that cramped apartment downtown." I lived in a one-bedroom loft I'd renovated myself, with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the arts district. It wasn't cramped. It was mine. "I'm not signing anything," I said. The line went quiet for exactly 7 seconds. Then, "Your grandmother is having surgery next Tuesday. She asked to see you, but I don't think that's a good idea if you're going to be selfish about this." My hands started shaking. Grandma Ruth was 87 and having a valve replacement. High risk. The surgery was at 6 a.m. at Jefferson Memorial Hospital. "You're saying I can't visit my own grandmother unless I give up my land?" "I'm saying your presence causes her stress. She doesn't need that right now. Make the right choice, Thea. For once." He hung up. I sat in my apartment until 2:14 a.m., staring at my phone. Then I drove to the hospital at 5:30 the next morning anyway. The nurse at the cardiac unit told me visiting hours didn't start until 8 a.m., and my name wasn't on the approved list. "My father must have made a mistake," I said. She checked again. "I'm sorry. Harold Linden specifically noted that only immediate family is allowed. Paige Whitmore is listed. You're not." I stood there in the fluorescent hallway for 3 full minutes, trying to process what she'd just said. I wasn't immediate family. I was Harold and Vivian's daughter, same as Paige, but somehow my name had been deliberately removed. I drove home and called the hospital every 4 hours for updates. They wouldn't tell me anything. I wasn't immediate family. Grandma Ruth survived the surgery. I found out 3 days later from a Facebook post Paige made, showing her and my mother in Grandma's hospital room with a bouquet of white roses. The caption, "So grateful for our strong matriarch. Family is everything." I wasn't in the photo. I hadn't been invited. That was May. By July, my father had filed a quiet title action claiming the 2-acre parcel had been transferred to him in error and requesting the court to recognize his ownership for the Oakdale Development Project. The court filing listed me as non-responsive party because I allegedly couldn't be located for service. I was served exactly once, at my office at Mercer and Hollis on a Thursday at 10:15 a.m. while I was in a client meeting with the Piedmont Theater Preservation Committee. The process server left the papers with our receptionist, Linda, who put them in my mailbox with a yellow sticky note. This looked important. I opened the envelope at 11:47 a.m. and read the complaint twice. Then I walked into my boss's office, Richard Mercer, senior partner, and said, "I need to take the afternoon off. Family emergency." He looked up from his computer. Everything okay? My father is trying to steal my property. Richard had known me for 6 years. He'd promoted me twice. He'd fought for my inclusion on the courthouse project when the client wanted someone with more experience. He leaned back in his chair and said, "Do you need a lawyer recommendation?" "I need documentation that I'm employed," I said, "in case he tries to claim I'm financially unstable." Richard printed out my employment verification letter, my salary history, and a written statement of my professional standing. He dated and signed everything. "Thea," he said, handing me the stack of papers. "Whatever you need, we've got your back." I responded to my father's lawsuit within the required 20 days with my original deed, my attorney's contact information, and a letter stating I would fight this. My attorney was Bernard Hastings, who'd been Grandma Ruth's personal lawyer for 40 years. Bernard was 72 years old, sharp as a blade, and completely unimpressed by my father's legal team. "Your grandmother warned me this would happen," he said during our first meeting. "She started preparing 8 years ago." My father's attorney replied to my counterclaim with a motion to dismiss, arguing that I had unclean hands because I'd allegedly forged my grandmother's signature on the deed when I was 18. That was a lie. The deed had been notarized by Bernard himself, witnessed by 2 county clerks, and recorded at the county land office in June 2010. The signature was real. The notary was real. The witnesses were real. But my father had money. He had a legal team. And he had a narrative. Troubled daughter, estranged from family, desperately trying to claim an inheritance she didn't deserve. In August, things escalated. My father showed up at the Piedmont Theater construction site on a Tuesday afternoon at 2:35 p.m. I was standing on scaffolding 30 feet up, inspecting the restoration work on the original crown molding, when I heard someone shouting my name from the ground. I looked down. My father was standing in the middle of the construction zone, wearing a suit and tie, completely out of place among the hard hats and power tools. "Thea," he called, "we need to talk. Right now." I climbed down the scaffolding carefully. Every step felt like descending into cold water. When I reached the ground, my father was surrounded by my construction crew, 6 guys in work boots and safety vests, all watching this interaction with obvious discomfort. "Dad," I said quietly, "this is my workplace. You can't just show up here." "Your workplace." He said it like it was a joke. "Thea, playing dress up in a hard hat doesn't make you an architect. We both know you're barely scraping by." One of my crew members, Danny, a carpenter I'd worked with on 3 projects, shifted his weight and crossed his arms. He didn't say anything, but his expression said plenty. "I'm not having this conversation here," I said. "Then where?" My father stepped closer. "You won't answer my calls. You won't meet me for lunch. You're hiding behind that lawyer of yours, making this whole situation so much more complicated than it needs to be." "I'm not hiding. I'm protecting what's mine." He laughed. That same dismissive laugh I'd heard my entire life. "Yours? Thea, you don't even understand what you're holding on to. That land is part of a much bigger development deal. There are investors. Real money. Paige and Garrett's future depends on this. But you're so focused on being stubborn that you can't see the bigger picture." I felt my face getting hot. "The bigger picture is that Grandma gave me that land. It's legally mine. You don't get to take it just because it's inconvenient for your development deal." "Your grandmother was old," he said. "She wasn't thinking clearly." "She was perfectly clear," I said. "The deed was notarized. The transfer was legal. You know this." My father's expression shifted. Something colder moved behind his eyes. "You know what your problem is, Thea? You've always been selfish. Ever since you were little. Everything has to be about you. Your drawings, your college, your career. You never think about what's best for the family." Danny cleared his throat. "Mr. Linden, we're on a schedule here. OSHA doesn't allow unauthorized people on the construction site." My father ignored him completely. He kept his eyes locked on mine. "Drop the lawsuit, Thea. Sign the transfer papers. Do the right thing for once in your life." "No," I said. "Then you're choosing to be excluded," he said. "From everything. Paige's wedding, family events, even your grandmother. She's made it very clear that she doesn't want to see you while you're causing all this trouble." That was a lie. I knew it was a lie, but hearing him say it in front of my crew, in front of people I respected and worked with every day, made my hands shake. "You need to leave," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Now." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he turned to my crew and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I apologize for my daughter's behavior. We've been trying to help her for years, but she refuses to take responsibility for her choices. If any of you have daughters, you'll understand." Then he walked away. The silence that followed was excruciating. I stood there in my hard hat and steel-toed boots, feeling like I'd been flayed open in front of people whose respect I'd worked years to earn. Danny was the first to speak. "Boss, you okay?" I realized I was gripping my clipboard so hard the metal clip had left an indent in my palm. "Yeah," I said. "I'm fine." "That was messed up," another crew member said. "Coming to your job like that." "He's my father," I said, like that explained anything. "Doesn't matter," Danny said. "You don't show up at someone's workplace and talk to them like that. That's not okay." I wanted to cry. I wanted to go home. Instead, I said, "Let's get back to work. We need to finish the crown molding before the inspector comes tomorrow." We worked until 6 p.m. Nobody mentioned my father again. But I could feel the weight of what they'd witnessed, the looks they exchanged when they thought I wasn't watching. That night, I sat in my apartment and stared at my phone for 2 hours. Then I called Grandma Ruth's hospital room. She answered on the third ring. "Hello? Grandma, it's me. Little architect." Her voice was weak but warm. "I've been waiting for you to call. Dad said you didn't want to see me." "Harold is a liar," she said simply. "He told the nurses not to let you visit. He told them I was too fragile for stress. But you've never been stressed, sweetheart. You've always been relief." I started crying. Not pretty crying. The kind where you can't breathe and your whole body shakes. "Dad came to my construction site today," I said, in front of my crew. "He said I was selfish. He said I was causing trouble." "You're not selfish," Grandma Ruth said. "You're inconvenient. There's a difference. Selfish people take what they want without caring who they hurt. Inconvenient people exist in ways that disrupt other people's plans. You're inconvenient because you won't disappear." I wiped my face with the back of my hand. "I'm tired, Grandma." "I know," she said, "but you're also strong, and I need you to hold on just a little bit longer. Can you do that for me?" "Yes," I said. "Good. Now listen carefully. In my closet at home, there's a hat box on the top shelf, navy blue with white polka dots. Inside that box is another envelope. Get it, open it, read what's inside, and then call Bernard Hastings. Will you remember that?" "Navy blue hat box," I repeated. "Top shelf. Call Bernard." "Good girl," she said. "I love you, little architect." "I love you too, Grandma." I drove to Grandma Ruth's house the next morning at 6:14 a.m. I still had a key from when I'd house sat for her 2 years ago. The house was exactly as I remembered. Wallpaper with tiny violets, hardwood floors that creaked in specific places, the smell of lavender sachets and old books. I went to her bedroom. The closet smelled like cedar and her jasmine perfume. The hat box was exactly where she said it would be. Inside was a thick envelope, sealed with red wax, written on the front in her handwriting. "For Thea, do not open until you're ready to fight." I sat on the floor of her closet and broke the seal. Inside were documents, lots of documents, copies of emails between my father and a real estate developer discussing the Oakdale project and how they planned to handle the Ruth situation. Dated from 4 years ago, long before Grandma's surgery, long before Paige's engagement. There were text messages my father had sent to my mother. "Thea won't know what hit her. Once Ruth is gone, we'll contest the deed. No judge will side with her over family." There were handwritten notes in Grandma Ruth's writing, documenting every conversation where my father had pressured her to change her will, to revoke the land transfer, to fix the mistake of giving anything to me. And at the very bottom was a letter. I unfolded it with shaking hands. My dearest Thea, by the time you read this, Harold will have made his move. I've known for 4 years that he planned to take your land. I've heard him on the phone with developers. I've listened to him tell Vivian that you won't fight back because you never do. He's wrong about that. You will fight back. I know you will. Everything in this envelope is evidence. Keep it safe. Bernard Hastings knows about all of it. When the time is right, he'll help you use it. But Thea, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about land. This is about your father trying to erase you. He's been doing it your whole life, making you smaller, quieter, less visible. The land is just the latest thing he thinks he can take. Don't let him. You are a brilliant architect. You've built a career your father can't even comprehend. You've earned every promotion, every award, every client's trust. That courthouse restoration? That's your legacy, not his, not Paige's, yours. Stand up, fight back, make him see you. I love you, I'm proud of you, and I'm sorry I can't be there to watch him realize he was wrong about you. All my love, Grandma Ruth P.S. The recording device I used for those conversations is in the hat box too. Bernard knows how to authenticate them for court. I sat on that closet floor for 23 minutes reading and rereading the letter. Then I called Bernard Hastings. In August, Paige called me for the first time in 8 months. Her voice was bright and cheerful, like we talked every week. Thea, I have the most amazing news. Garrett proposed. I was standing in the middle of the courthouse construction site, wearing a hard hat and steel-toed boots covered in plaster dust. Congratulations, I said carefully. We're getting married in October, October 12th at Millbrook Country Club. It's going to be gorgeous. 200 guests, a string quartet, this incredible floral arch. And Thea, I really want you to be there. I know things have been weird with Dad and the land thing, but this is my wedding. Families should be together. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Paige, I'd love to come. But Dad said I'm not welcome at family events, unless I drop the lawsuit. Oh my God, he did not say that. Her voice shifted into hurt disbelief. Thea, that's so unfair to him. He's just trying to do what's best for everyone. You're making this about you when it should be about Grandma's legacy. Grandma gave me that land. She gave it to the family, Paige corrected. You're part of the family. Stop being so literal about everything. This is why people find you difficult. My face burned. I'd heard that phrase my entire life. Difficult. Literal. Too serious. Can't take a joke. I'll think about it, I said. Don't think, just come. Please. It would mean everything to Mom. She paused. And Grandma will be there. She's doing so much better. Don't you want to see her? 3 days later, my mother called. Thea, I heard Paige invited you to the wedding. I think that's very generous of her, given everything. I was at my desk, marking up renderings for the courthouse's second-floor restoration, red pen in hand, windows open, September breeze coming through. Given what exactly? Well, my mother's voice got soft and careful. The lawsuit, the drama, the way you've made everyone uncomfortable. Paige is trying to extend an olive branch, and I hope you'll accept it gracefully. I haven't made anyone uncomfortable. Dad is trying to steal my property. Thea. She sighed like I was a child who didn't understand basic math. Nobody is stealing anything. Your father is trying to correct a clerical error from 16 years ago. If you truly cared about this family, you'd let this go. But I suppose asking you to be reasonable is too much. Something hardened in my chest, a small cold stone that hadn't been there before. I'll be at the wedding, I said, but I'm not dropping the lawsuit. Then I suppose we'll all just have to be civil, she said, and hung up. I called my college friend Marcus Chen that night. Marcus ran an AV production company that did events all over the state. We'd been friends since freshman year at Virginia Tech, and he was one of the few people who knew the whole story about my family. Marcus, I said, I need to ask you something, and you can absolutely say no. What's up? My father hired your company to run the slideshow at my sister's wedding. Did you see the content? There was a long pause. Yeah, he said finally. I saw it, Thea. It's really bad. How bad? It's character assassination, public humiliation. He's planning to call you a high school dropout, unemployed, divorced, basically destroy your reputation in front of 200 people. I was going to call you anyway. This crosses a line. My hands were shaking. Can you swap the USB? What? Can you swap the USB drive at the last second? Replace his slideshow with something else? Marcus was quiet for a moment. Yes, but I need you to give me the go-ahead the day of. I can't do this without your explicit permission. And Thea, once I do this, there's no going back. Your father will know you fought back. I understand, I said. Then I'm in, he said. What do you want me to show instead? The truth, I said. I'll send you the files. I spent the next week gathering evidence. Every piece of documentation that proved my father was lying, my architecture license, my master's degree, photos from my construction sites, client testimonials, award certificates, employment records, bank statements showing I'd been financially independent since age 22, and then I did something I hadn't planned on doing. I called Eleanor Whitmore. Eleanor Whitmore was one of the most powerful developers in the state. She was 63 years old, ran a $200 million company, and had a reputation for being impossible to impress. I'd been working with her on the Millbrook Heritage Project for 8 months, and she'd approved every one of my designs without a single revision. Miss Whitmore, I said when she answered. This is Thea Linden. I need to ask you for a favor, and I understand if you can't do it. What kind of favor? Her voice was direct, no nonsense. I told her everything, about my father's lawsuit, about the planned humiliation at the wedding, about the lies he'd been spreading. She was silent for a full 30 seconds. Then, your father came to my office 3 weeks ago. He tried to leverage your connection to me, your work on the Heritage Project, to secure a private development deal for something called the Oakdale property. I declined because the proposal was weak, but now I understand what he was really doing. I'm sorry, I said. I had no idea. Don't apologize, she said. Your father is using your professional reputation for his personal gain, while simultaneously trying to destroy that same reputation. That's not just unethical. It's stupid. Once she paused. What do you need from me? A letter, I said, stating the truth about my work, my professional standing. On your company letterhead. You'll have it in 2 hours, she said. And Thea, your courthouse designs are the best work I've seen in 20 years. Don't let anyone make you doubt that. I should have known. I should have seen it coming. October 12th arrived. I wore a navy blue dress I'd bought specifically for the occasion. Simple, elegant, appropriate. I drove to Millbrook Country Club at 5:30 p.m. and parked in the guest lot. The venue was stunning. White roses everywhere, chandeliers glittering. A string quartet playing Pachelbel's canon. I signed the guest book. I found my assigned seat at table 17, far in the back near the kitchen doors. I sat down next to a couple I'd never met, who introduced themselves as Garrett's co-workers from the engineering firm where he worked as a structural consultant. The ceremony was beautiful. Paige looked radiant in a lace gown with a cathedral train. Garrett cried during his vows. My mother dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief. My father stood tall and proud in his tuxedo, walking Paige down the aisle like he was presenting the most precious thing he'd ever created. I wasn't in any of the family photos. I wasn't asked to stand during the family blessing. The officiant said, Harold and Vivian raised an exceptional daughter, and everybody smiled at Paige. Nobody looked at me, but I was there. I showed up. I thought that was enough. The reception started at 7:15 p.m. Dinner was served. Grilled salmon with lemon butter sauce, roasted vegetables, wild rice pilaf. The couple next to me at table 17 made polite conversation about the weather and how beautiful the venue was. They didn't ask how I knew the bride. Speeches began at 7:30 p.m. Garrett's best man told a funny story about a camping trip gone wrong. Paige's maid of honor talked about their friendship since elementary school. My mother gave a tearful speech about watching her baby girl grow into a beautiful woman. I wasn't mentioned once. At 7:42 p.m., I saw Marcus across the ballroom, adjusting the projector equipment. He caught my eye and gave me a barely perceptible nod. Everything was ready. I just had to wait for my father to make his move. I didn't have to wait long. At 7:47 p.m., my father stood up and walked to the microphone. The DJ dimmed the lights. A projector screen descended smoothly behind the sweetheart table. "Before we cut the cake," my father said, his voice warm and paternal, "I'd like to take a moment to talk about family." I felt my stomach drop. The first slide appeared. A photo of Paige as a toddler, smiling in a sunshine yellow dress. "Some children are blessings from day one," my father said. "Paige has always been our golden girl, smart, kind, accomplished, everything a parent could dream of." The crowd murmured appreciation. Someone said, "Aw." The second slide, Paige's high school graduation, wearing her valedictorian sash. The third slide, Paige's college acceptance letter to Duke University. The fourth slide, Paige and Garrett's engagement photo, laughing on a beach at sunset. Then the fifth slide, a photo of me at 19, taken during the worst year of my life when I'd been battling pneumonia and weighed 98 pounds. My hair was lank, my face was gaunt. I looked destroyed. The caption read, "Thea, the family project that failed." I stopped breathing. The woman next to me inhaled sharply. Her husband shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Not every child is easy," my father continued, his tone shifting to something resigned and disappointed. "Some children, no matter how much love and support you give them, just can't seem to find their way." Thea dropped out of high school. She got divorced at 23. She's never been able to hold down a steady job, and now she's suing her own family over a piece of land that was never meant to be hers. The room was completely silent. 200 people staring at the screen. I could feel every eye in the ballroom turning toward me. My face was burning. My hands were gripping the edge of the table so hard the linen was bunching under my nails. The next slide, Thea's failures in bold red letters. Bullet points appeared one by one. High school dropout, no diploma, divorced and alone, unemployed, unstable career, estranged from family by choice, unable to have children, financial dependent on parents, until age 30. Every single point was a lie. I graduated high school with a 3.9 GPA. I have a master's degree in architecture from Virginia Tech. I've never been married, so I couldn't have been divorced. I've worked at Mercer and Hollis for 6 years and been promoted twice. I'm not infertile. I have simply chosen not to have children, and I haven't taken a dollar from my parents since I was 22. But the slide kept going. My father's voice dropped into something that sounded almost like grief. "We've tried everything: therapy, financial support, tough love. We've paid for rehab programs, job training, counseling. But Thea refuses help. She refuses accountability. And now, she's trying to take from the family that has given her everything." I looked around the room. People were staring at me, some with pity, some with disgust. Garrett's mother at table 8 was whispering to her husband behind her hand. My mother's sister was shaking her head slowly, like she'd always suspected this about me. My mother was standing near the DJ booth, one hand pressed to her chest, tears streaming down her face. The performance was flawless. Paige was at the sweetheart table, her face carefully neutral. She wasn't crying. She wasn't protesting. She was just watching. The final slide appeared, a photo of Paige and Garrett's architectural rendering for their dream home. On my land, with the caption, "Family legacy continues, despite Thea's obstruction." My father lowered the microphone and looked directly at me across the ballroom. His expression was almost kind, almost gentle. Thea, sweetheart, we love you. We'll always love you. But love also means boundaries. And we can't let your choices destroy what this family has built. The room erupted in applause. I sat frozen for exactly 11 seconds. Then I pulled my phone from my clutch. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I opened my messages and found Marcus's number. I typed 2 words. Begin now. The response came in 4 seconds. Done. I stood up. My legs felt like water, but I made them work. I walked toward the exit, not running, not making a scene, just walking. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice, sharp and commanding. Thea, don't you dare walk out. You owe your sister an apology. I kept walking, past table 16, past the floral arch, past the string quartet. Thea, my father's voice now. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Running away instead of facing the truth. I made it to the lobby, then the parking lot. I got into my car and sat in the driver's seat with the doors locked, shaking so hard I couldn't get the key in the ignition. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Uploading now. Give it 60 seconds. Stay where you are. You're going to want to see this. I closed my eyes. I counted to 60. Then my phone buzzed again. Marcus. It's done. Holy shit, Thea. You should see their faces. Inside the ballroom, I learned all of this from Marcus later, who recorded everything. The lights dimmed again at 8:02 p.m. My father returned to the microphone, smiling, confident. The projector screen descended for what he thought would be the cake-cutting ceremony. But the slides that appeared weren't the ones he'd prepared. The first slide was my Virginia architecture license. Full name, Thea Margot Linden. License number A-47832. Status, active. Issued, 2016. The second slide, my master's degree diploma from Virginia Tech, School of Architecture and Design. Graduated May 2015, magna cum laude. Marcus told me later that the room went completely quiet, like someone had sucked all the air out. The third slide, a photo of me on site at the Piedmont Theater restoration, wearing a hard hat and holding blueprints, shaking hands with Mayor Patricia Wells. The caption, Senior Architect Thea Linden presents Historic Restoration Plans, April 2026. The fourth slide, my Emerging Architect of the Year Award from the Virginia chapter of the American Institute of Architects. Received March 2023. The photo showed me on stage accepting a crystal trophy, wearing a black dress and smiling. Someone gasped. Marcus said it was Garrett's mother. The fifth slide, an email chain between me and Eleanor Whitmore. Subject line, Courthouse Restoration, Exceptional Work. The preview showed Eleanor's message. Thea, your designs for the second floor restoration are brilliant. The Preservation Committee has approved everything. This is the kind of work that defines a career. Well done. The sixth slide, my employment record from Mercer and Hollis. Start date, January 2020. Current position, Senior Architect. Salary, $94,000 annually. Performance reviews. Exceeds expectations. 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. The seventh slide, my original deed to the 2-acre parcel, signed by Ruth Elizabeth Linden, notarized by Bernard T. Hastings, dated June 14, 2010. 2 county clerk witness signatures. Official county seal. Property value as of 2026, $485,000. The eighth slide, a letter from Bernard Hastings, dated October 1, 2026. To whom it may concern, I, Bernard T. Hastings, attorney at law, hereby certify that I personally notarize the property deed transferring the 2-acre parcel known as Lot 47, Millbrook Heritage District, from Ruth Elizabeth Linden to Thea Margot Linden on June 14, 2010. Ruth Linden was of sound mind and body. She explicitly stated her intention to gift this property solely to her granddaughter, Thea. She further instructed me that under no circumstances should this property be transferred to Harold Linden or any other family member. Harold Linden's recent claim that this transfer was a clerical error is categorically false. I have audio recordings of Harold Linden attempting to pressure Ruth Linden to revoke this deed in 2022, 2023, and 2024. Ruth Linden refused each time. The deed is legal, binding, and final. Marcus said the room exploded. Not with applause, with shocked murmurs, gasps, people pulling out their phones. The ninth slide, a bank statement showing my account balance and transaction history. No deposits from Harold or Vivian Linden since June 2014. Regular paycheck deposits from Mercer and Hollis Architecture. Savings balance, $47,300. The 10th slide, my high school transcript. GPA, 3.91. Graduation date, May 2008. College preparatory track. Someone in the crowd said loudly, "Harold, what the hell is this?" The 11th slide was the one that changed everything. It was a letter from Eleanor Whitmore on official Whitmore Development Group letterhead. To whom it may concern, I have worked with Thea Linden on the Millbrook Heritage Project for 8 months. She is one of the most talented and professional architects I have ever had the privilege of collaborating with. Her designs have been instrumental in securing $4.2 million in historic preservation grants for our community. I was made aware today that Harold Linden has been spreading false information about his daughter's professional competence and personal character. I want to state unequivocally that these claims are untrue. Furthermore, I have learned that Harold Linden attempted to use his connection to this project through his daughter's work to secure a private development deal with my company for the Oakdale property. He represented himself as having control over the property and authority to negotiate on behalf of family interests. When I declined his proposal, he became hostile and suggested that I was being manipulated by his daughter. I am terminating all business discussions with Mr. Linden, effective immediately. I will not work with individuals who engage in character assassination of their own family members for financial gain. Integrity matters. Truth matters. Thea Linden has both. Sincerely, Eleanor Whitmore, CEO, Whitmore Development Group, October 10th, 2026. Marcus told me later that my father grabbed for the laptop controlling the projector, but Marcus had locked it remotely. The slides kept advancing. The 12th slide. Thea Linden, senior architect, award-winning designer, property owner, truth teller. The final slide was a split screen. On the left, my father's false slideshow with the caption, Thea, the family project that failed. Santi. On the right, a photo of me presenting to the Historic Preservation Committee, surrounded by blueprints and renderings, clearly in my element. The caption, actually, senior architect leading $4.2 million courthouse restoration. The DJ cut the music. The silence in that ballroom must have been deafening. Marcus said my father's face went from confident to white to red in the span of maybe 15 seconds. My mother was crying. Real crying now, not performance crying. Paige had both hands over her mouth. Garrett's mother, her name was Patricia, stood up from table 8. Her voice carried across the entire ballroom. Harold Linden, are you telling me you just publicly humiliated your own daughter with a slideshow full of lies? My father tried to speak. His voice came out strangled. Someone hacked the system. This is sabotage. Sabotage? Someone else stood up. Marcus said it was my mother's cousin James, a lawyer from Richmond. Harold, those are legal documents. That's a letter from Eleanor Whitmore. Are you saying your daughter forged all of that? She must have. She's been lying to all of us. I just Googled her, a woman at table 12 called out. She's listed as senior architect at Mercer and Hollis. Her photo is on their website. There are 3 newspaper articles about her courthouse restoration project from this year alone. My father grabbed the microphone. You don't understand. She manipulated my mother. She tricked an old woman into giving her valuable land. Harold! My Aunt Marie stood up from table 9. She was my mother's older sister, someone who'd always been kind to me in a distant, uncomfortable way. I was there when your mother gave Thea that land. It was 2010. I was visiting that summer. Your mother was sharp as a tack, and she specifically said she was giving it to Thea because Thea was the only grandchild who visited her every week. My father's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Someone else. So you made up that entire slideshow? The dropout thing? The divorce? The unemployment? She's estranged from the family, my father said, his voice getting desperate. She refuses to help with family matters. She's selfish. She's sitting right there. Patricia, Garrett's mother, pointed toward table 17, even though I'd already left. Someone must have told her I'd walked out. You just called your own daughter a high school dropout and an unemployed leech in front of 200 people, and every single word was a lie. My father's attorney, a man named Davidson from Hartwell and Associates, stood up from table 4 and walked toward the exit without a word. That was the moment my father realized his legal team was abandoning him. Paige was crying now, her mascara running in black streaks. Dad, you said she dropped out. You said she was barely surviving. You said... She is barely surviving, my father insisted, but his voice cracked. That little apartment, that construction job. That construction job is a senior architect position earning $94,000 a year, James called out. We all just saw her bank statement, Harold. She has more in savings than I do, and I'm a partner at a law firm. My mother finally spoke. She was standing near the cake table, her face pale, her hands shaking. Harold, stop. Just stop. My father looked at her, then at Paige, then at the 200 guests staring at him with expressions ranging from shock to disgust to barely contained fury. He set down the microphone and walked toward the exit. The room erupted in chaos, people pulling out phones, whispering, standing up. Garrett's family looked horrified. My mother's family looked confused and angry. Paige's friends were consoling her while she sobbed. Marcus told me he saw at least 15 people Google my name in the next 5 minutes. I learned all of this from Marcus, who sent me the video at 8:34 p.m. with the message, "You need to see this. I'm sending you everything." I watched it sitting in my car in the parking lot. I watched the slides appear one by one. I watched my father's face change from confident to panicked. I watched the room turn against him. I watched him walk away, and then I cried. Not because I was sad, because something I'd been carrying for 34 years. The weight of being invisible, being erased, being told I was less than, had finally cracked open and released. I drove to Jefferson Memorial Hospital. Visiting hours were over, but I called Grandma Ruth's private room number. She answered on the second ring. Hello? Grandma, it's Thea. Her voice brightened immediately. Little architect, I've been waiting for your call. How did it go? You knew what was going to happen tonight? I suspected, she said. Your father is predictable. He always goes too far. Did you use everything I gave you? All of it, I said. The documents, the recordings, the letter from Bernard, everything. Good. I could hear the smile in her voice. And how do you feel? I thought about it. Lighter, I said. And tired, and angry, and relieved, all at once. That sounds about right, she said. Come see me tomorrow. We have a lot to talk about, and bring coffee. The hospital coffee here is terrible. I laughed, actually laughed. I will. I'm proud of you, she said quietly. I know that was hard, but you did it. You stood up. I learned from you, I said. No, she said. You were always strong, sweetheart. I just gave you permission to show it. I drove home and slept for 11 hours straight. The next morning, I woke up to 47 missed calls and 89 text messages. I deleted all of them without reading. Then I drove to the hospital with 2 large coffees and a bag of croissants. Grandma Ruth was sitting up in bed, looking stronger than she had in months. Her color was good. Her eyes were bright. "There's my architect," she said. I set down the coffee and hugged her carefully, mindful of the IV in her arm. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. I told her about the slideshow, about Marcus swapping the USB, about Eleanor's letter, about my father's face when he realized what had happened. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she reached over to her bedside table and pulled out a large manila envelope. "I have something else for you." "Grandma, you've already given me so much." "Hush," she said. "Open it." Inside was a letter, sealed with the same red wax as the one I'd found in the hat box. This one said, "For Thea, after the battle." I broke the seal and read, "My dearest Thea, if you're reading this, then you've stood up to your father, and I'm so proud I could burst. I need to tell you some things you don't know. When you were 7 years old, you spent the entire summer building cities out of cardboard in my basement. Do you remember? You made buildings with working doors, streets with painted lines, even a little park with trees made from pipe cleaners. Your father came to pick you up one day and saw what you'd built. He said, 'Ruth, you're letting her waste her time on this nonsense? She should be outside playing sports like normal girls.' I said, 'Harold, she's building the future. Let her work.' He laughed at me. He told me I was indulging you, that I was making you soft and impractical. But I saw something he didn't. I saw an architect. I saw someone who could take empty space and fill it with purpose. That's when I decided. If your father was going to spend your whole life trying to make you smaller, I was going to spend mine making sure you had something solid to stand on. The land was always meant for you, not as an investment, not as leverage, as proof. Proof that I saw you. Proof that your worth wasn't dependent on your father's approval. I've been documenting his cruelty for 8 years, Thea. Every conversation where he pressured me to revoke your deed, every time he called you lazy or difficult or failed, every lie he told about you to justify taking what was yours. Bernard has all the recordings. If your father tries anything else, if he tries to contest the deed again, if he tries to claim you manipulated me, Bernard will release everything, but I don't think it will come to that. Because what you did at that wedding wasn't just self-defense. It was revelation. You showed 200 people who you really are. Your father can't unsee that. Nobody can. The courthouse restoration is beautiful, by the way. I drove by last week before my surgery. You're building something that will outlast all of us. That's what architects do. Keep building, little architect. Keep standing up. Keep taking up space. You were never the problem. You were never too much. You were always exactly enough. All my love, Grandma Ruth. P.S. Eleanor Whitmore called me last week. She said you're the most talented architect she's worked with in 20 years, and she wants to hire you for a private project when the courthouse is finished. I told her you'd be interested. Don't let me down. I read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and put it in my bag. "Thank you," I said. "Don't thank me," Grandma Ruth said. "You did the hard part. I just made sure you had the tools." We spent the next 2 hours drinking coffee, eating croissants, and doing the Sunday crossword puzzle together. Neither of us mentioned my father again. Over the next 3 weeks, things happened quickly. Harold Linden's quiet title action was dismissed with prejudice by Judge Morrison at the county courthouse. His attorney, Davidson from Hartwell and Associates, withdrew from the case and filed a formal letter with the Virginia State Bar citing client misrepresentation. Bernard Hastings filed a counterclaim on my behalf for defamation, harassment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, seeking $250,000 in damages. Eleanor Whitmore didn't just cancel her business discussions with my father. She sent a letter to every major developer in the state explaining exactly why. The subject line, "Professional Ethics Matter." My father's consulting firm, Linden Development Advisory, lost 4 major contracts in 2 weeks. 3 clients cited reputation concerns. The 4th just ghosted him. The courthouse restoration project was completed on November 18th, 3 days ahead of schedule and $120,000 under budget. Mayor Wells presented me with a commendation at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The local paper ran a front-page story. Young architect breathes new life into historic landmark. My mother called me 17 times in the first week. I didn't answer. On the 18th call, I finally picked up. "Thea," she said. Her voice was small. "We need to talk." "No," I said. "We don't. Your father made a mistake." "Mom, he didn't make a mistake. He planned that slideshow for weeks. He rehearsed it. He knew exactly what he was doing." She was quiet for a moment. "He thought he was protecting the family." "From what?" I asked. "From me existing? From me having something that was mine?" "From you being difficult," she said. And there it was, the thing she'd always believed. "Thea, you've always made things harder than they need to be. If you'd just compromised, if you'd just let your father handle the land situation, none of this would have happened." I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, the one I'd felt my entire life when my mother made me responsible for my father's cruelty. "You're right," I said. "If I'd just let him steal my property and destroy my reputation in public, everything would be fine. For you." "That's not what I'm done, Mom," I said. "I'm done being the problem. I'm done being difficult. I'm done apologizing for existing. You can keep Dad. You can keep the version of this family that only works when I'm invisible, but I won't be part of it anymore." "Thea, you're being dramatic. I'm being clear," I said. "Don't call me again." I hung up. Paige texted me 2 days later. "Thea, can we please talk? I didn't know what Dad was planning, I swear." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, "You saw the first slide. The one that said, Thea, the family project that failed. You saw it before the reception started. You didn't stop him. You didn't warn me. You just let it happen." Her response came 5 minutes later. "I thought it was going to be a joke, like a roast. I didn't think he'd actually—" "You didn't think," I wrote back. "That's always been your problem, Paige. You've never had to think. Mom and Dad made sure your path was smooth and clear. You've never had to fight for anything. You've never had to prove yourself. So when Dad was actively destroying me in front of 200 people, you just sat there and watched, because it wasn't happening to you." She didn't respond. I blocked her number. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my newly expanded loft. I bought the unit next door and knocked down the wall, creating an open-plan living space with a dedicated drafting studio, looking at blueprints for the Whitmore Legacy Project. Eleanor hired me to design a community arts center for the Millbrook Heritage District. It's going to be built on a portion of my 2-acre parcel. The rest of the land will be preserved as a public green space with walking trails and native plant gardens. The city is contributing $1.8 million in arts funding. The project breaks ground in August. I have a cat now. Her name is Ruth. She's gray with white paws and sleeps on my drafting table while I work, occasionally batting at my mechanical pencils when I'm not paying enough attention to her. I see Grandma Ruth every Sunday. She moved out of her house and into a beautiful assisted living community near the waterfront. We do crossword puzzles, drink jasmine tea, and talk about architecture. Last week, she told me she's thinking about writing a book about property law and family dynamics. I told her I'd be her first reader. Richard Mercer promoted me to principal architect last month. I'm the youngest principal in the firm's history. My salary is now $127,000, and I have my own team of 3 junior architects. I haven't spoken to my parents in 6 months. I haven't seen them. I don't plan to. Last week, I got a message on LinkedIn from a woman named Jennifer. She wrote, "I was a guest at your sister's wedding. I watched what your father did to you, and I watched what you did in response. I need you to know that it changed my life. I've been letting my family treat me like I'm invisible for 18 years. I finally told them I was done. I moved out. I started my own business. I'm building something that's mine. Thank you for showing me it was possible." I didn't expect that. I didn't plan to inspire anyone. I just wanted the truth to be told. But here's what I learned. Silence isn't peace. Silence is the price you pay for someone else's comfort. And the moment you stop paying that price, you learn exactly who valued your silence more than your presence. My father valued my silence. My mother valued my compliance. Paige valued my absence. But Grandma Ruth valued my truth. Bernard valued my integrity. Eleanor valued my work. Marcus valued my courage. And I learned to value myself. If you're watching this, and you've ever been called difficult for telling the truth, or too sensitive for having boundaries, or selfish for protecting what's yours, I want you to type these words in the comments. I stopped paying. Or if you're still working up the courage to walk away from people who make you feel invisible, type, I'm getting ready. Both are brave, both are valid, both are the beginning of something real. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. And if you're celebrating anything this month, I hope you're surrounded by people who actually see you.